वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we will start from Prabhupada's Leelamrit. Abhas, Prabhuji, do you want me to read it or would you like to read it?
Yes, Mataji, you can read it.
Okay. Mr. Churchill's Human World. We are pleased to find that leaders of world politics such as Mr. Churchill have nowadays begun to think of a human world and trying to get rid of the terrible national frenzy of hate. The frenzy of hatred is another side of the frenzy of love. The frenzy of love of Hitler's own countrymen has produced the concomitant frenzy of hatred for others, and the present war is the result of such dual side of a frenzy called love and hatred. So when we wish to get rid of the frenzy of hate, we must be prepared to get rid of the frenzy of so-called love. This position of equilibrium, free from love and hatred, is attained only when men are sufficiently educated. Until men were educated to see the soul within the body, the dual frenzy of love and hate would continue, and a human world would not be possible. This introspection, Abhay concluded, is easily attained by the service of Godhead. So, Mr. Churchill's human's world implies that we must go back to Godhead. Mr. Bernard Shaw's wishful desire. Mr. Bernard Shaw has congratulated Mahatma Gandhi on the occasion of the latter's 76th birthday in the following words. I can only wish this were Mr. Gandhi's 35th birthday instead of his 76th. We heartily join with Mr. Shaw in his attempt to subtract 41 years from the present age of Mahatma Gandhi. But that does not respect our wishful desire. Neither Mr. Shaw nor Mahatma Gandhi nor any other great personality had ever been able to solve the problem of death. The leaders of nation have opened many factories for manufacturing weapons for the art of killings, but none has opened a factory to manufacture weapons for protecting men from the cruel hands of death, although our wishful desire is always not to die. So men were preoccupied with the problem of how to get bread. Although this problem was actually solved by nature, man should try to solve the problem of death. Bhagavad Gita tells that the problem of death can be solved, although death is everywhere in the material world. One who attains to me, says Krishna, never has to take his birth again in the material world. This is a spiritual world, non-destructible, and one who goes there does not come to the region of death. Why should the leaders of nations cling to the planet of their birth, where death is inevitable? Abhay concluded, we wish that in their ripe old age, Mr. Shaw and Mahatma Gandhi will make combined effort to educate men to learn how to go back to home, back to Godhead. After 2 issues of Back to Godhead, Abhay had to stop. Printing was costly, but he kept writing regularly, working at Gita-Upanishad, turning out new articles and philosophical purports on the scriptures, even in the same book in which he wrote his pharmaceutical formulas. Thank you, Prabhuji. I will share my screen with today's verse. Screen 3. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udariyat Nastaprayese Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. So today's verse we have is from Canto 4, chapter 20, verse number 24. Na kamayena tatad api aham kwachin na yatra yushmam charana bhujashvaha mahattamantar hridayan mukhachyato vidhatsva karnayutam eshamevaraha न कामये न था तदपि अहं क्वाचिन् न यत्रायुष्मच्चरणाम्बुजाश्वः महत्तमन्तर्हृदयान्मुखाश्यतो विधत्स्वकर्णायुतम् एषमेवर न कामये न तदपि अहं क्वाचिन् न यत्रायुष्मच्चरणाम्बुजाश्वः महत्तमन्तर्हृदयान्मुखाच्युतो विधत्स्वकारणायुतमेष वरः. Anybody would like to recite this word?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Na kamayena tadapi aham kachin na yatra yushma charanam bhujasha mahatmananta hridayam kuchuto vidasya karanam tamesha mibara. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am also trying.
Okay, Prabhuji.
No kamayena tadapi aham kachin na yatra ismat charanam bhujashavaha mahattamantara antarhridayan mukhachito vidhatsya karnayutam ishame varaha.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I will also
Hi.
try. No kamoyena tadapyaham kachin na yatra yushma charanam bhujashavaha mahattamanta hridayan mukhachyuto vidhotshvakarna yutameshame vara. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am also trying.
Hi, Krishna Mataji.
Nakamaye nath tadopi aham kachin na yatra yusmak charanam bhujasya mahatmanta hridayan mukhachyuto vidhatsva karnayutam esame varaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone else would like to try? I'll go to the translation. So we'll have word-to-word translation first. Na, not, kame, do I desire, natha, O master, tad, that, api, even, aham, I, kwachit, at any time, na, not, yatra, where, yushmat, your, charanam, bhuja, of the lotus feet, ashvaha, the nectarian beverage, mahattama, of the great devotees, antahridayat, from the core of the heart, mukha, from the mouths, chutaha, being delivered, vidatsva, give, karna, ears, achutam, 1,000,000, esha, this, me, my, varaha, benediction. Translation. My dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging into your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1,000,000 years, for thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotees. Anyone would like to read the purport?
Yes, Mataji, I can.
Go ahead, Madhavi.
In the previous verse, Maharaja Prithu addressed the Lord as Kaivallapati, the master of the liberation of merging into his existence. This does not mean that he was anxious for Kaivalla liberation. That is made clear in this verse. My dear Lord, I do not want such a benediction. Maharaja Prithu wanted to have 1,000,000 ears to hear the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord. He specifically mentioned that the glories of the Lord should emanate from the mouths of pure devotees who speak from the cores of their hearts. It is stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam 1:13, Sukha Mukhanda Amrita Draba Samyadam. The nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam became more relatable because it emanated from the mouth of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. One might think that these glories of the Lord can be heard from anywhere, from the mouths of either devotees or non-devotees. But here it is specifically mentioned that the glories of the Lord must emanate from the mouths of pure devotees. Sri Sanatana Goswami has strictly prohibited hearing from the mouth of a non-devotee. There are many professional reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam who speak the narrations very ornamentally, but a pure devotee doesn't like to hear from them because such glorification of the Lord is simply a vibration of material sound. But when heard from the mouth of a pure devotee, glorification of the Lord is immediately effective. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. There's another paragraph.
Yeah, okay. The words Satam, Prashangam, Mama Virya Samvidaha, Bhagavatam 3:25-25 mean that glorification of the Lord is potent when uttered from the mouth of a pure devotee. The Lord has innumerable devotees all over the universe, and they have been glorifying the Lord since time immemorial and for an unlimited time. But still they cannot completely finish enumerating the glories of the Lord. Prithu Maharaja therefore wanted innumerable years, as Rupa Goswami also desired to have millions of ears and millions of tongues to chant and hear the glorification of the Lord. In other words, if our ears are always engaged in hearing the glorification of the Lord, there will be no scope for hearing the Mayavad philosophy, which is doomed to spiritual progress. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that if anyone hears from a Mayavadi philosopher preaching about the activities of the Lord, even if it is a description from the Vedic literature, he is ultimately doomed. By hearing such Mayavada philosophy, one cannot come to the destination of spiritual perfection of life. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. What a beautiful verse and a wonderful purport explained by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Trimandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Swavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatrusbhescha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha namo vishnupadaya krishnapasthaya bhutale srimate vedvyaspriya swamiti namane namo vishnupadaya krishnapasthaya bhutale srimate bhaktivedanta swamiti namane namaste saraswate deve gauravani pracharine nirvishesha shunyavadi pashatade satayane jai shri krishna chaitanya prabhu nityananda shri advaita gadadhar shivasadi gaur bhakta vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we saw in previous verse that Lord is Kaivalyapati, but Prithu Maharaj clarified that he does not desire for Kaivalya liberation. And his prayer in this word is that, oh Lord, I don't want liberation. Instead, he's asking, please give me millions of years to hear. Please give me millions of years to chant. So let me ask questions, like the answer is already visible, but I'll still ask and try to hide the answers. So if anybody could explain that why Prithu Maharaj didn't want liberation.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
As per the impersonal liberation, their want, they wish to merge into the impersonal form of the Lord, and they loses their identity. So that he doesn't want, because when he once merges with the Supreme, then there is no chance of serve the Lord. So they wants an individuality, even though in liberation. And that is the reason why he doesn't want impersonal liberation.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anybody else would also like to add to that?
He wants to serve. He wants to serve the Lord. That's why he doesn't want to liberation. And this is impersonal liberation. Yeah, merge into the Brahma Jyoti. He does not want. Yeah, same.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Variety. He wanted variety. A lot of variety.
Yes, that's right. I have not stopped sharing, but I've stopped the. So, as you all have already mentioned that, yes, in that situation, he will not have opportunity to service. So, as Sita Mataji has mentioned, Poshak Mother Prabhuji has said, and Shri Chaitanya Prabhuji has said, when there is no opportunity to serve, the devotees can't enjoy that. So many people desire liberation from this material existence just because they are fed up of all the miseries of this world. But just remove all the miseries and go to a place where you are full of ananda, but there is no activity. It is not enjoyable. But impersonal liberation does release all sufferings from this world, and the souls enter into Brahma Jyoti, enter the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, which is called Sayuja Mukti. The second reason why he didn't want impersonal liberation was that when there is no spiritual activity and it is an inactive state, then devotees can't enjoy, because that is the inherent nature of a devotee, is to serve. So when there is, when Prithu is clarifying here, he is glorifying the Kaivalya Mukti, but at the same time, he is clarifying that I don't want liberation from this material existence. I'm desiring to render devotional service to you, because there is no opportunity to see your lotus feet or to serve you in Brahma Jyoti. So no, I don't get excited with the benediction of liberation. And it is a very unfortunate situation where we can't relish the loving exchanges between the Lord and the devotees and just be in an ananda, but have no activity at all. Ultimately, the soul will fall down. So that is also a risk. So it is an impermanent situation. It is not a temporary situation. It is not a permanent situation. So then after clarifying what he wants, he mentions, I want an opportunity to hear glories of you from your great devotees. So when he says glories of you from your great devotees, he is mentioning two important points here. First, he wants to hear the glories, and he wants to hear the glories only from devotees. So he's saying great devotees, because your devotees carry the Lord Krishna within their heart. So they are great devotees because the Lord is within their heart. And whenever they speak, whatever they speak from their mouth, they invoke Krishna consciousness and the sincere listeners of the Krishna Katha. And he rejected liberation, and he wanted millions of years to hear Krishna Katha. So let's see, we have similar words where devotees have got similar experiences. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antalila, chapter 1, verse 99. Prabhupada has mentioned this, briefly mentioned this verse in this purport as well. So Lord name is so potent that its glory cannot be relished by just 2 years. And that's why Prithu Maharaj wanted millions of years. And then we are seeing in this verse, which is written by Rupa Goswami, who also desired to have millions of years and millions of tongues to chant and hear the glorification of the Lord. Let's see what the translation of the verse. I do not know how much nectar the two-syllable Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all these senses becomes inert. So from this verse, we can understand that people who understand the glories of the holy name, they want millions of ears to hear and millions of mouth to chant. So in the beginning, he says that he doesn't know how much nectar the two-syllable Krishna have produced. That means he cannot measure it. And when we hear something like, oh, I don't know how vast it is with the ocean, I don't know how vast it is, that means it is really huge. It is beyond our material senses to even judge it, to even measure it. So we can't even imagine how much pleasure just these two syllables can be relished by these pure devotees. So it's very precious. But at the same time, just these two words, we at our level, because we can say we can't relish, but still, we must be relishing some potency of the holy name, because you can think from your own imagination. We are continuously chanting every day, 2 hours for so many years, and we don't give up. Just imagine, instead of Krishna, if we had to chant kola, 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 or some other random word for 2 hours, we will get tired. We won't have energy to continue. But from where are we getting this energy? From where are we getting this enthusiasm? It is from the holy name. And that's why we are at least able to continue our sadhana. So that is the potency of the holy name. And then there is one more verse from Damodar Ashtakam, which I would like to also mention here. Like, Varam deva moksham na moksham vadim va na chanyam vrineham vare sadapiha idam te vapurnatha gopal balam sada me manasya virasam kiman. The translation, wait. O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benediction, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your feature of Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. So here we see that all kinds of liberations are useless as compared to hearing the glories or pastimes of the Lord. And we saw 3 examples of Prithu Maharaj from this current verse, from Rupa Goswami's verse, from Damodar Ashtakam, that hearing the glories of the Lord and the Krishna's holy name has been defined as far more superior than any kind of liberations. So we'll see that what happens when we hear from Mayavadi or not hear from devotees. So from the purport, it has been mentioned that we saw that if our ears are always engaged in hearing the glorification of the Lord, there will be no scope for hearing the Mayavadi philosophy, which is doomed to spiritual progress. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that if anyone hears from a Mayavadi philosopher preaching about the activities of the Lord, even if it is description from the Vedic literature, is ultimately doomed by hearing such Mayavadi philosophy. One cannot come to the destination of spiritual perfection of life. So basically, when we hear from people who are not devotees or Mayavadis, then it destroys the creeper of our devotion. And one cannot chant Krishna's name. So let's see, I will share 2 stories, 2 wonderful stories from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which will possibly convince you that we must only hear from devotees. So there is a story of Advaita Acharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All of you would know Advaita Acharya. He was the spiritual. So in this pastime, Advaita Acharya was not happy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not able to accept Advaita Acharya as his servant. He treats him with lots of awe and reverence because he was the spiritual uncle of Lord Chaitanya. And he was actually the god brother of Lord Chaitanya's guru. So following the etiquette, so even Lord follows the etiquette, and he used to treat him the god brother of the guru with the same respect. So he would always be very humble and address him as his own spiritual master and call him as Prabhu. So Advaita Acharya was very depressed with the situation. So he said, I will force him to accept me as a servant. Let's see what I do. So what he does is he left Navdeep and went to Shantipur, and he began to preach the philosophy of impersonalism, which is, of course, against what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has preached us. So he was preaching to everyone that impersonal realization is superior than bhakti. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, that, oh, Advaita Acharya is preaching Mayavadi philosophy. He said to Nitya Prabhu that, let's go to see him. How can he do that? So on the way, they came to a house of one sannyasi, and that sannyasi, he blessed him that, oh, you'll have lots of wealth, you'll have lots of material, all worldly material things that you can have in this world. And Lord Chaitanya said, oh, please give me benediction, that I don't want a material benediction. Give me a blessing that I'll become devotee of Krishna. So sannyasi became very upset. I know more or you know more? You are children. How can you tell me what benediction I should give? I know the best. Everybody wants this. And then later on, we saw that he was also a woman hunter. So we saw that sannyasi was very fallen. But even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had his association. But he, from this pastime, it suddenly comes in between just to give us that even such fallen sannyasi, he would have association, but he would not have association of a Mayavadi philosopher. There would be many Mayavadi sannyasis who would call him, but he would not go to them. So then he finally reaches Mahaprabhu reaches the Advaita Acharya, where he was enthusiastically preaching, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come. Let me loudly do the Mayavad conclusions. And when Lord Chaitanya came in and he heard this, his eyes became red with anger. And in loud voice, he said, Advaita, are you saying speculative knowledge is superior than devotion? Which is better? And Advaita Acharya said, obvious fact, it is speculation. It is speculative knowledge. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got very furious. He grabbed Advaita Acharya and brought him to his outside courtyard and started beating him. And then everybody said, including Sita Thakurani, that, oh, please stop, he's an old man, he will die. And we see that Advaita Acharya was very happy. He was laughing and he was dancing with ecstasy, that, oh, Lord has finally accepted me as a servant. Like a thief, I have stolen the servant position from him. And of course, Lord was very embarrassed. But from this pastime, he wants to show us that how much it gives pain to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when somebody hears Mayavadi philosophy, because it illusions the soul. It illusions us from the path of bhakti. So, and there is another pastime which also explains this, that why one cannot chant Krishna's name. So there's a pastime of Prakashananda, who is a Mayavadi philosopher. So the Mayavadi sannyasi Prakashananda, he used to teach Vedanta philosophy. So once a Brahmana saw the beautiful behavior of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he came to Prakashananda and said, oh, I have seen Mahaprabhu, he is so glorious. And he started glorifying Mahaprabhu. He said, everything is wonderful about that sannyasi. He is very well built and luxurious body. His complexion is like purified gold. He has arms that extended to his knees, and his eyes are like the petals of a lotus. In his person are all the transcendental symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And whoever sees him, he explains the effect of seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that whoever sees him, it begins to chant the holy name of Krishna. So that was the greatness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, and his tongue is always chanting the holy name of Krishna. And his eyes, tears in necessity fall like the flowing Ganges. Sometimes he dances, sometimes he laughs, sometimes he sings, sometimes he roars like a lion. And then he said his name. He said his name is Krishna Chaitanya, is all auspicious for the world. And then Prakashananda just laughed. The Prakashananda Saraswati, he just laughed hearing all this description. And he jokingly said to Brahmana that, yes, I heard about him. He's a sannyasi from Bengal, but he's very sentimental. He's only a pretender. And he started offending Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, I know his name is Chaitanya. And he's accompanied by many sentimentalists. And his followers dance with him. He tours from country to country and village to village. Whoever sees him accepts him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He must have some mystic powers. So, and then he said about one more devotee, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was such a learned scholar. Even he is influenced by him and in his association. So he is not a first-class devotee. He's a first-class magician. That's what he concluded. So don't go and see him, because if you'll go, you will be lost. So when the Brahmana heard this, he knew his offensive mentality. And then he just left from there. And he immediately started chanting the holy name. So here we see that he heard so many offensive words about the Lord, but still he was not affected. The Brahmana was not affected because he personally saw the Lord. So when he saw the Lord, his mind was purified. So that's why it didn't impact him. But then he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he told him the entire event of what happened. And he said, I told him that your name was Krishna Chaitanya. And he said, yes, he knew your name, but he could never say Krishna Chaitanya. He could only say Chaitanya. 3 times he would have uttered your name, Chaitanya, 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 but he could never utter the word of the name Krishna. Why is that, Mahaprabhu? Why he could not utter Krishna and Hari? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that the Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders onto the Lord Krishna. And therefore, they simply utter the words Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. And because they are offenders onto the Krishna, the holy name, which is identical to the Krishna, it cannot manifest in their mouth. So that's why anybody who hears even from them are disadvantaged. So from this pastime, we can understand that Mayavadi cannot even chant Krishna's name. So of course, even if they're chanting artificially, it won't have the same potency as the potency you will hear from the pure devotee. So it is useless to hear from them. It is like a milk touched by the lips of servant, which is poisonous to drink. So if we hear a Vedic reading or chanting from a Mayavadi, then it may look like a nectar, but actually it is killing and destroying your creeper of devotion. Even a Mahabhagavata entertains a Mayavadi philosopher. Even if he does, he will fall down. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, stay away, stay in the association of only devotees, protect yourself from this mad elephant effect. And it is loosened when we associate with impersonalist. And then I'd like to conclude this by saying how hearing works when we hear from pure devotees. So many people speak about Bhagavatam, but if you don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the speaker doesn't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then there is no spiritual potency in that hearing. Sanatana Goswami has strictly prohibited from hearing those people. If you want to reestablish seriously the relationship with Krishna, then hear from his devotees. Hear about the glories of the Lord, how to develop in spiritual life in the association of devotees. So many times we are hear from pure devotees, and one may think that, oh, I'm not a pure devotee. Should you hear from me, or should you hear from anybody we think, or may not be a pure devotee, maybe just an ordinary devotee or some advanced devotee, but not at a pure devotee level. So should we, how do we differentiate that? So if we think about that, then yes, we can hear from devotees who are connected to pure devotees, because then the potency is transferred through pure devotees to the devotees who is following a pure devotee. So we are situated and connected to Srila Prabhupada in a disciplic succession. And by repeating what Prabhupada has said, studying his books, which is very potent, then there is a value from even listening from an ordinary devotee who is reading and explaining from what a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada has explained. And I'll conclude by summarizing the effect of hearing on our spiritual advancement when we hear from devotees. So firstly, we will need taste. So how we can develop taste is by devotional service to great devotees will give us taste, Shravanam. So which we see in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.16 to 17. So there are some people who are so eager to hear about Krishna with great faith and eagerness. So those are the devotees we need to render service. So we get the taste of hearing. And by hearing from them, it will purify our hearts. And by serving those devotees, we will develop taste for hearing. And eventually, hearing helps to establish loving devotional service, which becomes irrevocable, so which is great. And it will take devotees above the mode of passion and ignorance. So we will be into mode of goodness, which will act like a springboard to keep pushing us towards the transcendental mode. And with hearing, we will also then gain the knowledge of Krishna as per 2 verse. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.20, and also from Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is similar verse where it says that by hearing, you will gain the knowledge of the personality of Godhead. And then the next verse, which is the next verse in the sequence of Srimad Bhagavatam 4.20.25, where it will help us, where it says that it will help us to restore our eternal relationship with the Lord. So just by hearing, we will be able to restore our relationship with the Lord, and then we will be gradually able to remember this eternal relationship and establish our eternal position. So thank you, everyone. If anybody have any questions or comments, we can discuss.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna Prabhuji.
What a beautiful start. Yes. Yeah, it's very, very important for all of us to understand why you should not follow the Mayavadi philosophy. Because you exemplified with 2 examples from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Advaita Acharya, and Prakashananda Saraswati that indicates the effect of Mayavadi philosophy. If you follow that, that hampers your devotional service. And in the text, it is clearly mentioned that why we should not follow, because it loses our identity. When we merge into the impersonal effulgence, we lose our identity, as it is mentioned that we lose the variety of services of rendered. So we don't want to lose that variety. And in saying so we want our individuality to serve the Lord, at least in the service of hearing and chanting. So when we hear from the right devotees, the great devotees, and then we'll be able to chant, and that is how the service mood is amplified. So Prabhupada already mentioned that you don't only hear, you need to preach. So one side you hear, and whatever you restore in your mind, in your heart, you speak or you preach to the others for their benefit. And this is how the things goes from one side to another. So these examples, as we every day here in the before the start of the Bhagavatam class, Sivatam Shakata Krishna, Punna Sravana Kirtana, Hridayantastahi Abhadrane, Vidunuti Shurichata, Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu, Niktam Bhagavata Shevaya, Bhagavati Tamasloki, Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtami. So this is the process, and we regularly do this one so that we hear from a right source and try to preach to others to get the benefit. And that's all from me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Wonderful addition. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, yes, very nice class. And always, Bhagavatam is always a reminder, and you are in the disciplic succession and we are getting the result because we are getting the taste, isn't it? And our ruchi is developing because we are hearing from the devotees who is connected with the Lord's parampara and with the Lord. Yes, so this is a new example I heard today. I did not hear about that, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya's incident. Yes, this is very nice example that I never heard. This is a new for me. And yeah, you nicely described about that how Sanatan Goswami and Prithu Maharaj wants the million of year, and Rupa Goswami wants million years and time to develop our devotional service, develop our taste, and it should be for us to remember and to hear the Lord. And also you nicely described about the how we will not listen the Mayavadi's philosophy. Thank you, Mataji. It's nice class overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the very nice class and particularly bringing out why we should not hear from the version from the Mayavadi philosophers, because that you have very clearly pointed out that that will destroy our seed of bhakti. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has repeatedly told that we should never hear the versions of Mayavadi philosophy, because even they are quoting from the Shastras, because that will destroy our bhakti. And if the bhakti is destroyed, everything is lost from the spiritual life for a devotee. And the devotee never wants to merge with it, as other speakers have also, other have also commented that we should never hear from Mayavadi, because if we hear them, there is, from the beginning, we have some doubts, and this doubt will destroy our seed of bhakti. So we should never hear from them. And also, Prabhupada has, up to a number of times, has clearly told that the concept of Bhagavan, that is the highest platform. And in Bhagavatam 1 to 6, 1 to 11, it's clearly mentioned that Vadanti tattavidas tattam jat jnanavattayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shakti. Although the three levels of the same God, but same high Advaitam, that is the highest absolute truth, but the Bhagavan is the highest platform. And one who has reached the highest platform, there is no point for him to come down to, because he understands the other thing, what is the Brahman and what is the Paramatma, he knows it already. And there is no point of coming down to that lower platform when he knows it, and he enjoys, as you've told, so many varieties. A devotee has so many forms. He can hear the Lord in varieties of explaining the forms, pastimes, and everything from a devotee. When we hear from them, we get a taste and we enjoy it. And there is no point of just merging in the Brahma Jyoti and dissolve our personality, individuality, and ultimately it will fall down. It is also a temporary situation, and one will ultimately fall down, because the nature of the soul is always to remain active. Prabhupada has told it unlimited times that because the soul is active at that stage, when it's merged, it has no activity. So ultimately at one stage it falls down. So why should I settle for intermediate things when we have the final goals? As well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told, and Prabhupada has brought before us in the present age. So we should never compromise with that, and we should never follow the traps of Mayavadi philosophers. Neither we shall listen to their philosophy, nor we have any association with them while discussing with our spiritual things. We shall always hear from a pure devotee, from the parampara, and in this way we can strengthen our bhakti seat, bhakti lota, and in this way we can develop our association with the Lord. Thank you very much, Madhavi.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So anybody else wants to make a comment? So Mataji, it appears there is no other person to make comments, so we can end the class now.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the nice class, and for the devotees who have participated. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Har Grace Ananglata Devi Dasi ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.